Ready to unlock your notary potential and boost your income? It's time to move beyond basic notarizations. In Notary, Niche Navigator by Derek Spruill, learn the most profitable specialized services. Learn to master high-demand areas like loan signings, international apostilles, and I-9 employment verifications. This essential guide offers new ideas to help you become the go-to expert in your field. Grab your copy of Notary, Niche Navigator by Derek Spruill today and start building your empire.
Imagine you've just landed this perfect remote job, but you are totally thrilled. Or, look at it from the other side of the desk.
The employer side.
Exactly. You're a savvy strategist, you run a business, and you've just managed to hire the absolute perfect candidate to help scale your distributed team.
And you're thinking, the hard part is finally over.
Yeah, you think it's just a matter of signing some contracts and filling out standard onboarding paperwork. But imagine if a single, tiny, unchecked box on a routine HR form ends up costing the company thousands of dollars in federal fines.
I mean, it sounds completely absurd.
It does. But in the modern landscape of remote work, this exact scenario is playing out every single day. So welcome to Notary Knowledge. I'm Marylyn.
And I'm Eddie.
And today we are getting into a massive stack of sources to talk about high-yield I-9 verification. We're talking federal compliance manuals from USCIS, legal guidelines from top immigration law firms, and breakdowns of the leading HR tech platforms like I-9 Intelligence, WorkBright, and Outsolve.
Because the through line in all these sources revolves around one notoriously tricky document, which is Form I-9.
Right. And our mission today is to navigate this high-stakes world of remote verification. For you listening out there, whether you're an HR pro, a business owner, or someone building B2B accounts, the goal is to understand these new permanent rules.
Because there are hidden landmines buried in these processes. And for our savvy strategists listening, you know that B2B accounts provide volume over single acts.
Yes. High-yield I-9 verification is all about that B2B volumes. It's a massive profit pivot. But before we get to the strategy, why is a standard employment form from the 80s suddenly terrifying corporate compliance officers?
Well, the terror really comes from the sheer financial gravity of the errors, colliding with the logistical nightmare of a distributed workforce.
Yeah, it used to be so simple.
Exactly. In a traditional office, the process was practically foolproof. A new hire walks in, hands over their physical passport, HR touches it, checks the hologram, and everyone moves on.
Right. But now you remove the ability to physically hold those documents because, the employee is sitting at their kitchen table 3 states away.
And boom, you've turned a simple administrative task into a massive logistical vulnerability.
And the penalties aren't just like a slap on the wrist. We aren't talking about a sternly worded letter.
Oh, far from it. A paperwork violation is incredibly punitive. Right now, a simple mistake like missing a date or transposing a couple of numbers carries a fine ranging from $288 down to $2,861 per form.
Wow. Per form. That is wild.
Yeah, and that's just for unintentional, honest errors. If you're hiring 100 remote workers a year, and your HR rep makes the same procedural mistake on all of them...
You're suddenly staring down a $280,000 fine for a typo.
Exactly. And if an audit determines there are intentional violations, those fines can soar up to $27,000 per instance.
Per instance? That's staggering. The sources highlight some real historical examples. Macy's was hit with $275,000 in fines. McDonald's paid $400,000.
And ABC Professional Tree Services got slammed with a $2 million penalty.
$2 million. It's essentially a $1 million paper cut.
That's a perfect way to conceptualize it. The government audits run by IC are totally uncompromising. They don't care that your workforce is scattered across 4 time zones.
It's like taking a high-stakes open book test, but if you drop a single comma, your entire quarterly profit just gets wiped out. But hang on, let me push back for a second.
Sure.
Didn't the government relax all these rules during COVID? I remember people just, emailing blurry photos of their IDs or holding them up on Zoom.
Right, they did.
So why are companies suddenly panicking about this now?
Well, that assumption is exactly what's triggering audits right now. Those relaxed COVID-era flexibilities are totally dead. They officially expired back in August 2023.
Oh, wow. So no more casual Zoom checks.
None. We are living in a rigid new era. The DHS introduced what they call the alternative procedure for remote document examination. And the absolute biggest misconception is the belief that anyone can just hop on a video call to verify an I-9.
Right, because reading the guidelines, it's clear this alternative procedure is the opposite of a free-for-all. Before we dive into those specific steps, we're going to take a quick pause for a commercial break, but stick around.
We'll be right back.
Okay, welcome back to Notary Knowledge. So we were just talking about how you can't just jump on a FaceTime call to verify an I-9 anymore.
Yeah, you really can't. You cannot legally verify an I-9 over live video unless your company is actively enrolled in E-Verify and in good standing, period.
So if you are not an E-Verify participant, video calls are strictly illegal for I-9s.
Strictly illegal.
That is so interesting because E-Verify is essentially like the VIP club bouncer for remote hiring.
It really is.
It's this web-based system that cross-references data against Homeland Security and Social Security databases. And if you're not on the VIP list, the bouncer does not let you use the video shortcut.
Exactly. And even for the employers who did get past the bouncer, the alternative procedure has a highly specific three-step sequence. Step 1 is, by the end of day 1, the employee must securely transmit clear copies of their documents, front and back.
So a blurry iPhone photo in a dark room isn't going to cut it.
It absolutely won't. You need a baseline legible copy, because Step 2 mandates that within 3 business days, there must be a live video interaction.
And it has to be live, right?
Yes. No asynchronous apps, no pre-recorded messages. The employee has to hold up those exact physical documents on camera, and the employer has to compare it to the copy from day 1.
Okay, that makes sense. You need to see how the light hits the hologram, make sure it's not a printed piece of cardboard. But then there's Step 3, which seems to be the hidden trapdoor.
Oh, it is a massive trapdoor. Step 3 involves document retention and notation. You have to retain the clear copies securely under the 31 rule.
Which is keeping it for 3 years after hire or 1 year after termination, right?
Whichever is later, yes. But the real trapdoor is you must manually go into Section 2 of the form and check a very specific brand new box labeled Alternative Procedure.
Wait, really? So if they do the whole live video dance perfectly, verify the ID, file everything securely, but they just forget to tick that one tiny box?
ICE classifies missing that specific checkbox as a substantive violation.
Wow. So it can't be fixed later.
No. Technical errors can sometimes be cured with a 10-day notice, but substantive violations cannot be cured. It triggers an immediate fine.
You get fined thousands of dollars purely because you didn't check a box proving you did the thing you actually did. That is brutal.
It's the reality of the new system.
Which naturally makes me wonder about the companies that don't use E-Verify at all. If the VIP bouncer says they can't use video, how on earth do they legally hire a remote worker 3 states away?
Well, if you're locked out of the video method, federal law leaves you with exactly one option. You must designate an authorized representative to physically meet the new hire in person.
Okay, but who actually qualifies as an authorized representative? Do I have to fly my HR manager out there?
No, and this is where it gets fascinating. The government allows an employer to designate literally anyone. A local manager, a notary, a neighbor, or even the new hire's own spouse.
Are you serious? I could hire someone and tell them, hey, just have your husband look at your passport and sign this highly sensitive federal compliance document.
You absolutely can. It's a legacy loophole. But utilizing it opens up a massive trap.
Because of the liability.
Exactly. The liability doesn't shift to the husband. The employer remains 100% legally liable for whatever that representative does.
That is terrifying. It's like asking your local barista to perform a building code inspection on your house just because they work down the street.
It's exactly like that. Except if the roof collapses, the federal government fines you $27,000 for not realizing the barista didn't know what they were doing.
Oh, man. And the data backs this up, right?
Totally. The sources show the friends and family method generates substantive violations at 3 to 5 times the rate of trained HR staff.
What are they actually messing up on the form?
They misunderstand document classifications all the time. Like a Social Security card is a List C document. It only proves work authorization. It doesn't have a photo.
Right.
But an untrained person assumes it's the ultimate ID, so they mistakenly accept it as a List A document, which is supposed to prove identity too. Or they miss the 3-day deadline entirely.
And ICE holds the employer responsible for every single mistake. Now, speaking of untrained civilians, I noticed in the legal guidelines there is a huge issue with notaries.
Oh, the notary myth.
Yeah, I'd imagine HR departments think, I won't use the spouse, I'll just send them to a local notary. That's an official state officer. It's totally safe.
It seems logical, but it creates absolute chaos. The Form I-9 is not a notarized document, doesn't require an oath, and there's no designated place for a notary field.
Right. They are just acting as a private citizen proxy for the employer. But out of habit, do they stamp it anyway?
Often, yes. And slapping an unauthorized state seal on a federal immigration form creates immense confusion. Plus, a lot of notaries will just refuse to sign it without their seal because they're terrified of losing their license.
So just a terrible onboarding experience for the new hire.
Exactly. So relying on notaries blindly is a compliance disaster waiting to happen.
Okay, so if friends and family are a massive liability and random local notaries are confusing the paperwork, this is exactly where our savvy B2B strategist steps in, right?
This is the profit pivot.
Yes, because single acts, just doing one random I-9 for a walk-in, that's small potatoes. But B2B accounts provide volume. Think about all these companies out there with massive remote workforces.
Oh, they are everywhere.
Right. Let's look at some scenarios. You've got Tom running a B2B printers company. You've got Andy down in Arizona building phone apps with a totally remote dev team.
Exactly. Or Ben up in North Dakota handling shipping logistics.
Or Bob in Massachusetts dealing with clips. Or Dan in Michigan managing an entire team doing audiobooks. All of these guys are enterprise business owners, and they simply cannot rely on confused roommates or panicked notaries to onboard their teams.
They don't. And that pain point is why an entire ecosystem of managed compliance platforms has evolved. We're talking about systems that blend workflow software with nationwide networks of highly trained professionals.
Right. Our tech breakdown sources mention platforms like I-9 Intelligence, Tracker I-9, I-9 Everywhere, Outsolve, and Notary Hub.
Yes. And to understand the B2B volume play here, you have to look at the different service tiers. There are baseline DIY software tiers that just digitize the form for about $50 a pop.
But the DIY model doesn't solve the physical problem. The employer still has to figure out who is conducting the physical or video examination.
Exactly, which is why the managed service tiers are the real lifesavers. In a managed service model, the platform actually provides the human being to do the verification.
So when Andy in Arizona hires a remote dev in rural Texas, the software schedules a meeting between the new hire and a trained compliance expert.
Exactly. That agent reviews the documents, correctly fills out Section 2, ensures the alternative procedure boxes are checked, and absorbs all that operational burden.
And from what I read, these platforms use APIs to integrate directly into applicant tracking systems like Workday or Lever. So the recruiter clicks hired and the system handles the rest.
It creates a seamless workflow. But more importantly, it solves a massive data security issue regarding the 31 rule we discussed.
Right, holding on to digital copies of passports and social security cards for years, which sounds like a hacker's dream.
It's a huge vulnerability for personally identifiable information, or PII, but these managed platforms feature intelligent auto-purge capabilities.
So it tracks the exact dates, and the second a document reaches its legal retention expiration, the system permanently deletes it.
Exactly. It massively minimizes the company's liability.
So when you step back, spending, $21 to $50 per form on one of these managed service platforms isn't really an administrative cost. It's an insurance policy against a $2,861 fine.
And this raises an important question regarding the timing of all this tech adoption. The sources highlight a very specific looming deadline that is driving a lot of these enterprise tech purchases, March 31, 2026.
Oh, right. The great COVID cleanup deadline. What happens to all those companies that did this manually over Zoom back in 2021? Are those older files ticking time bombs?
They absolutely are. The DHS declared that those old, relaxed methods are invalid long-term. Employers have until March 31, 2026 to retrospectively clean up all those older files using the permanent rules.
Meaning HR has to go back to every single employee hired during that window and re-verify their documents.
Yes. They are utilizing these tech platforms to run mass audits on their own archives before the deadline hits. Because if ICA audits them on April 1st, 2026, every single unremediated COVID-era I-9 becomes a substantive violation.
That is a terrifying ticking clock. Okay, to recap today's deep dive into high-yield I-9 verification, Form I-9 is no longer just a piece of paper. It is a high-stakes compliance operation.
Definitely.
For you listening, understanding the boundaries of E-Verify, the live video requirements, and the massive liability of untrained authorized reps is crucial. You want to focus on those B2B volume accounts, provide professional managed services, and protect companies from these insane fines.
It's the reality of modern compliance. And as we look to the future, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Right now, we rely incredibly heavily on this live video interaction rule to prove identity. We trust that a human looking at a webcam can spot a fake ID.
Which is getting harder and harder.
Exactly. As deepfakes, AI-generated IDs, and real-time video manipulation become indistinguishable from reality, how long will a simple video call remain a secure way to verify federal documents? Will the government eventually be forced to abandon remote visual inspections entirely in favor of mandatory biometric scanning for all remote hires?
That is a wild thought. The technology is moving so fast, it makes you wonder if that $1 million paper cut is eventually going to evolve into a $1 million deepfake.
It really makes you think.
Well, we want to remind you to check out the Notary Knowledge books by Derek Sproul to level up your B2B strategies. And please rate the show, subscribe, and share this podcast with others in the industry.
And if you have any questions, email your questions to derek@dereksproul.com. We will try to answer as soon as possible at the end of our shows.
Before we go, a quick shout out to our team: executive producer Derek Sproul, lead writer Marylyn Trotter, graphics by Eddie Montes Travis, music by Thomas Bynum, and produced by Magnificent Works Business Solutions.
Awesome team.
Truly. So remember, don't just be listeners of the knowledge, be doers of the knowledge. This is Notary Knowledge. Until next time.
Ready for digital notary acts? Introducing the book The Future Notary, Mastering Ron, eNotary, and Complex Scenarios by Derek Sproul. Embrace change for your business with new tech for Ron and eNotary. Get your copy of The Future Notary, Mastering Ron, eNotary, and Complex Scenarios by Derek Sproul from Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, Books of Million, Bookshop.org, Mobile Notary by DerekSproul.com, or download from Kindle today.